Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today we're going to take a look at Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak. I go on and off with this book because sometimes I'm a bit confused of why people love it so much, honestly. I don't quite get it, but I am a fan of Maurice. In general, I think he had such an interesting life story. Coming from a Jewish immigrant background and the troubles that I guess like his family had faced with the war and like the trauma that stayed with him throughout his life, and then also he was gay and wasn't able to come out publicly. He didn't feel like he could because he was worried. He had such a huge career in children's books. He was worried that people would be disgusted by that and like he would no longer be able to do his job, so he kept it for a secret for a long time. So I find him as a person and a character more interesting than his artwork sometimes, but I do have a lot of respect for what he'd done and his kind of values and moral values that he sticks to. I would say he took his art very seriously, and his art came first, and his art really was an expression of who he was and his life, and each book that he released was like a real passion project, I feel. He was given the opportunity to like make more books in this series and make it more commercial and stuff, and he always turned it down. So I think there was times where he could have sold out easily and made more money, but he really was passionate about his art. It comes across that he seemed quite sad in the interviews that I've seen of him. I don't know how happy his life was, but it seemed like he struggled a lot with maybe mental health problems, or I don't know. It felt like even though he had a very like great career that many artists and many illustrators would love to have, it seemed like he was weighed down by a heaviness, which was really interesting. I wonder if that like affected his art and made his art better. I don't know, that's just my take. I enjoy watching interviews with him, but that's by the by. We're going to look at this book now and perhaps dissect what people love about this. I do like the artwork. The artwork's fun, and I appreciate Max as a character. I think this book was a bit controversial because Max wasn't really portrayed as maybe a good little boy, and he spoke back to his mum and he was punished quite harshly, but very realistically in a way that in children's books I don't think had been seen before. So I think it definitely pushed boundaries when this book was released. I just want to take a moment to talk about like how little text there is in this book, which I appreciate. And how much white space there is. And something that I noticed, that I was told recently that I'd never noticed before, is how the images change as the book goes along. But like, look how little text. There's like 2 words on one page and then a picture for it. But already, so as the story develops, the images get bigger and smaller. So we start off with this one image, a slightly bigger box on the second page. An even bigger box depicting his room. So Max is sent to bed without any supper, which again is very common, I feel like, but or was very common, but for some reason to have it documented in a children's book was like, heaven forbid. And as the story develops and the room begins to grow, the image is getting bigger, till it's almost taken out up the full page, and again, just 2 words on one side, and then full artwork on the other. This book also breaks the rule of like you'll hear constantly that every children's book has to be 32 pages long, and that's the industry standard, whereas a lot of these really famous popular books that are being reprinted over and over again and sold millions of copies are well over 32 pages. So I mean, it's only a rule when it needs to be for them. It's just ridiculous that it's like the amount of children's books that I've got that are big children's books are not 32 pages. The cake is a lie. So when he is transported to the other world, the artwork is fully taking up the page now. And it's even starting to slowly seep onto the second page as he's sailing across the sea. I really think it's clever. I don't know if it was a conscious decision, but I think it's clever how Max has a costume that's instantly identifiable. If you see someone dressed like this, you know they're dressed up as where the wild things are, especially if they have the crown. I think it's such a cute costume as well. And now we switch to the image taking up both pages, but there's like a little bit of white space at the bottom with the text on. And again, I think this format is quite unusual for children's picture books because there'll be a lot of vignettes, which is like a small image, kind of contained. But the fact that it's like a conscious decision to go from one square on one side to slowly grow and then move over and then take up both pages. The text is deliberately apart from the image, which I think is interesting because oftentimes you're encouraged to include both on the page. So we meet these monsters, which Maurice did say that a lot of these monsters were like foreign relatives that used to come and visit, like grandparents and aunts and uncles, that as a child would scare him because they seem to have like big features, big eyes, big noses, and false teeth or teeth falling out and stuff. And as a child, constantly being surrounded by like these older kind of scary looking relatives saying that they wanted to eat him and that he was so cute and stuff, that influenced these monsters and how the monsters looked. And it's interesting because when you try and research like a monster, there's no distinct way that a monster is portrayed. Everyone portrays monsters differently, and I think these monsters are so unique, and you can understand straight away that they're supposed to be a monster. They're not. It's like a culmination of loads of different types of animals, but they all kind of look similar. I love this image of Max with the scepter. And again, the image is starting to take over more of the page and there's less white space at the bottom than before. Until we get to this middle part of the book and the image takes over completely, which I love. And I think this is what's the word? This shows that an illustrator has designed this book, because I don't think, well, as a writer, if you're only writing, you can't think about how it's going to look specifically, because a lot of time in traditional publishing you're separated from the illustrator, and if as a writer you would not get a say in how the book looks and how it's illustrated. But I love the fact that he's taken time to say, like, this part doesn't need words, and for a few pages you can just have the drawings speak for themselves. Max is playing with them, he's roaring with them, he's like leading them, and the images completely take over, so there's no more text. This is beautiful. To have this like as a framed image would be amazing. there's so much detail in his artwork, which I struggle with in general, and I get a lot of critiques on my artwork that there's too much detail, but I've always been confused at that, because there's a lot of famous artists, like, there's no need for him to do all this cross-hatching at all. It's completely unnecessary, but it adds so much, and he's praised for it. So I've always struggled with the critique of, like, oh, there's too much detail in the artwork. So now, as the story is coming to an end, he realizes, like, his time is kind of coming to an end. He's kind of getting tired of being on the island with the monsters, and the text reappears again. And it starts getting bigger as he leaves, and the monsters kind of chase him and say goodbye. And what is interesting is, so it goes back to the text taking over the space, but it's going back this way. You might think it would go the opposite way, if that makes sense. But it's going back the way that it started. So we have a single image on this page, white space and text on this page, as he reaches his bedroom. And his food was still hot, and that's how it ends. So little text throughout this book, love it. Not the best end pages, but I like the colours. And there you have it. Yeah, I do like it. I like the monsters, I like the character design. I love Max as a character. He's kind of unruly and very boyish and very realistic. But this book is praised so much, and I still don't quite understand that. And I think for me it's kind of like Shakespeare. Shakespeare's praised so much, and people say it's like the highest level or whatever of theatre. But I often question, is it, or is it the fact that it's old and we're just used to it, that we kind of praise it? And there's like books like this and like The Hungry Caterpillar, and just that are sold so much, and they've sold so much over time, and they stay in like top selling positions. And I don't know if nostalgia is doing a lot. I don't know, genuinely it might be like a work of art and like a masterpiece. I think it's very clever, but sometimes I get confused with like where it's coming from. But anyway, that's kind of my review and look into it. I hope you enjoyed that, and stick around for more if you're enjoying these videos. Thank you.